Hey there, welcome to episode 173 of the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 11:26 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Friday, June 19, 2026. Happy Juneteenth Day. Is it Juneteenth Day or Juneteenth? Sorry, I'm hopefully both are correct. So yes, Juneteenth today. A perfect day to record another episode of the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program. If you are not aware of what the Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program is, very briefly, Cafe Genius was put together in January of 2022 as a wrapper around the pitch workout room, which was an event at 9 a.m. at Tech Alley in downtown Las Vegas for 19 consecutive months. A fairly successful event by some measures. People advancing from aspirational and nascent to actually doing stuff with their ideas. That is a technical term, technical stuff. The idea was for people to get up and in open mic fashion present their startup ideas. The theory being that if people have ideas but don't know quite how to begin, they may not. So why not get up in front of a room full of friendly people who will give you constructive feedback? The one rule being don't be mean, and see if you can. You don't even need a deck was the rule. Get up and start talking if you want to. So it was fairly successful. So we needed something to wrap around that to say brought to you by sort of thing. Cafe Genius, then, cafe with two F's, no E over the accent, an homage to Cafe Centro in San Francisco, the Bay Area. San Francisco City, though. The San Francisco Bay Area, I use that expression a lot. It was located in South Park, across the street from the ballpark. At the time, it was Pac-Bell, then AT&T, and now it's Oracle Ballpark. South Park was an actual park, grass, trees, picnic benches, and a little coffee shop called Cafe Centro. Jack Dorsey was known to work on Twitter on his laptop at Cafe Centro, for better or worse. I had been there several times. It was quite pleasant. Sadly, Cafe Centro did not survive very much long. Very much long? Didn't survive very much or very long, one of those, after the pandemic. And so Cafe Centro, as far as I know, is no more. There were plans and hopes and dreams of bringing it back to life. Maybe that will happen. Who knows? Their tagline was where startups start. I've often said that the Greater Vegas area needs a few Cafe Centros. It probably does have them. They're probably called Mothership, but there are several delightful coffee options. And just remember to buy coffee if you take up their space. They got a business to run. Genius was a bit of an homage to the Genius Lunches, which used to take place down in the downtown project area. Not always downtown, but a gathering of people pursuing their entrepreneurial and innovative notions, endeavors, adventures. Every once in a while, an ad hoc, hey, you want to go to lunch tomorrow? We're going to get together at place, and then chit-chat, quick update, gossip, etc. And then back to doing whatever you were doing, rather than an all-day affair or a meetup, trying to arrange a venue. It was about 10 people, maybe a dozen, maybe. Grab a quick lunch, usually took up one big table or two or three small tables. The conversation was typically before and after, with a quick snack in the middle there, and quite effective. Something we've tried to bring back. Not a lot of interest thus far. And if there's one lesson we can learn in Vegas, it is if one group is not interested, move to another group. The impresarios, spelled with two S's, are the people making stuff happen. Going for it, doing it, not just getting the t-shirt. I like to consider myself one such person, one such archetype, perhaps. Eventually, we'll get back to doing interviews. We used to have interviews in the first, say, dozen of our shows here, but booking and coordinating and so on became tedious. Not everybody wants to talk about what they're doing or what they're doing as part of the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, which is the focus of what we are up to. So all that said, today's title and topic, proof motivated reasoning works. What could that mean? Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I will read to you, and the links for today's episode, which are many. So I'll apologize for that now because I'll just go through them quickly. If you're intent on clicking on them, you will be able to do so wherever you found this audio program. And I'm going to throw down the gauntlet and say that there will be, because it's just getting to be ridiculous, especially YouTube. There will need to be episode pages from the Cafe Genius homepage, which I'll point out again. But Cafe Genius, CAFFEGENIUS.org, also in the links. We need to be a little bit more autonomous, not quite sovereign yet, but a little bit more autonomous as far as publishing content. So I'd like the links to also be easily accessible on our own homepage, our primary point of publication. It's been something that's been talked about for far too long. Okay, enough said. Let's get started so we can get finished on this lovely Juneteenth afternoon. Well, it'll be afternoon when we're done. It's 11:32. Let's get started. A somewhat sensational title. Remember, that was Proof Motivated Reasoning Works. A somewhat sensational title. This is not really proof so much as a few examples, but of what motivated reasoning is and how it can be used effectively in Greater Vegas. I don't know that that's a good thing. Motivated reasoning is usually bias, some skew. Let's see what's up. Cafe Genius homepage, like I mentioned, cafe with 2 F's, an E with no accent. And by the way, I did check because I thought I left the accent off to be convenient, so you don't have to type a special character and see the impact on the URL with the percent signs and all this. But no, Cafe Centro did not have an E, an accented E. So just a plain old E. Cafe Centro, Cafe Genius. Cafe, 2 F's, 1 E, no accent. Cafe Genius, GENIUS.org. And I do hope Cafe Centro returns someday. They should come to Vegas. Become a local. The host, that's me, profile page linking everything. If there were guests, there would be guest links so that they are always visible and discoverable. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. It's my 5-year and 2.5 month anniversary. No, I've had it for quite a while. I don't really do this for the money, so there's no need to pay for anything. You are more than welcome to buy me a coffee if you like. Funds that arrive through that platform and also Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo also. Buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo/posts is where you will find the weekly Monday morning Buy Me an Update. It used to be published there exclusively. Now it's published everywhere else 2 hours later. Quick rundown on the previous week's audio program topics and news and announcements upcoming. And then the profile page on buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo lists links to all of my various audio programs, various projects, some affiliate links for products I actually use. There you don't pay anything extra, but hey, think of it as like a tip jar. Usually, I keep saying I'm going to update my favorite coffee beans, typically, but not always, from Amazon. And then a couple of other products that I actually use and actually endorse. And so I don't feel too guilty, but you don't have to click on anything or buy anything or spend any money or anything. So live free. Now, the episode links for today, there are several, like I said. They're news links, and I haven't been meticulous about using the headline text to describe each link, but if you visit the links, you'll see what the actual articles are and so on. When I discuss these, they're basically in order. So I don't want to have to keep going back and forth and referring, and it'll just get kind of muddled up. So if you actually are interested in this and you click on these links and you maybe have them open while you're reading the articles and then you're listening to my commentary, it's like a reaction video. So first, Las Vegas ranks number 2 worldwide in startup activity. That's pretty close to the headline. And that's a Review Journal article. And we'll talk about where that data comes from. Las Vegas leads the U.S. in tech employment growth for 2026. That's very exciting. It also leads in total employment growth. I believe it was 1.9%, which is higher than the national average. So that's nice. Las Vegas putting down the jobs, putting up the job descriptions and job openings and putting down the jobs. I don't know if putting them down is a good thing, but that's the intent. Population and migration per capita. I added that because it's important to note when you're looking at these sorts of announcements, the headline is something like Nevada is the standout. California's ability crisis continues to drive relocation to Nevada. It actually is driving relocation to several states, and Nevada's number one, but we'll talk about why. There are 3 links that are interlinked, cells interlinked. Got to get to the baseline. I came across this initially at this link, gamblingnews.com. So that's the end of the telephone game in this 3 link collection. It was a Google News reader, or what is it? Google Discover, whatever it is. So it's almost like an RSS reader. So regional news. Oh, Vegas gambling. Okay, here, you might want to read this. And I thought, interesting. And it didn't really point out where this data was coming from. So I found the Review Journal article that I believe it mentions but does not link to. So that's the middle of the game. Nevada is America's fastest growing state, report says. And it is the fastest growing state by percentage since 1970. And so when you actually go to the Visual Capitalist website, that's the start of the telephone game, it shows all of the states. It does get its data from the U.S. Census, so that they give their data source. You can actually track that down. I can't remember if they link directly, but the census website is an embarrassment of riches when it comes to all kinds of data. And they list the beginning and ending populations. And I will point it out now. I think I'm going to mention it again later. Nevada today in 2026 is ranked 31st in population in the United States. So for 572% growth, I think it is, we are ranked 31. So we'll get into why that matters. Broken link. By the way, don't take any of this as like anti-Nevada, anti-Las Vegas, I want to see failure. Absolutely not. Yeah, quite the opposite. It's important to realize what we're looking at and what we're hearing and seeing and reading and liking on LinkedIn and so on, and where the stuff is coming from so that we can use it effectively. There's a broken link, but if you are able to track down the information, more power to you. It's the first thing we're going to talk about. Crowdfund Capital Advisors had an article that got tons of attention when it was published in 2023, and we'll talk about that in a moment. There's a TED Talk by Julia, I misspelled her name, Julia Galef. I have not watched this. I've seen the YouTube video. I'm sorry. I've seen the TED Talk and probably on YouTube, and she's been in interviews here and there and whatnot. Very talented, very interesting person. She's done a lot of work on rationality, as in being rational, and her TED Talk, and then the books, the Scout Mindset, and it's actually a longer title, which I'm going to say later. Don't worry. So the Scout Mindset by Julia Galef, a good book. There's a Wikipedia page about it, so you can track that down there. Part of what she talks about is motivated reasoning, hence the title of today's topic, today's episode. And motivated reasoning also has a Wikipedia page, which you can check out. And then I have a bad news link. Not bad news about me or you or anyone. It's bad. Well, maybe. Hope not. It is local news, 8newsnow.com. And it's concerning the fact that Nevada ranks last in the nation for mental health care access. That's not good. And we'll get into why bad news is something you probably don't hear much of. So let's get started so we can get on with our Juneteenth celebrations and remembrances and reflection. And whenever you're listening to this, hopefully you've done that by now. So what is motivated reasoning? So as I mentioned, Julia Galef has a solid TED Talk in the links that I mentioned just moments ago and in her book, and it's called The Scout Mindset, Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't, about, for example, motivated reasoning. I mean, it goes into more detail about more things. It's the scout versus the soldier mindsets and so on. It's an interesting book. You should add it to your to-do list. The book is an interesting read. Nothing too surprising if we match what we encounter in our surroundings at any given time against what she is describing. So in other words, you're not gonna reach page 2 and say, I've never thought of any of this, but it's a sensible connecting of the dots, you could say. But it is good to have these sorts of things pointed out within a structure, which is basically what she's doing. I recommend the book. There you go. Now, If I do not, or if I did not like the book, would I have mentioned it, much less recommended it? Maybe her book matches my preconceived notions. Maybe I only want to give you information that matches those preconceived notions or that agrees with my premise. The goal in this episode is not to be mean, condescending, or even particularly negative. There's a small number of examples. I'm sorry, there are a small. Can I do grammar? I got to take that class again. There are a small number of examples of a wider problem. The examples are based on reporting from our local media, mostly, typically on reports and studies published from other entities far away, and then some of the impact these have anecdotally and why they may be important. From my point of view, at least, you may differ. Your views may differ. See, I'm only going to give you the information that agrees with my point of view, though, so that's all that matters. The base assertion is that in order to support a particular narrative, what we might call good news is cherry-picked and boosted, often via LinkedIn posts, which if you've listened to any episodes of this audio program, you know how much I enjoy LinkedIn. There is a LinkedIn newsletter for this that corresponds with this audio program, sort of corresponds with the Cafe Genius top level organization, and it is very, very top level. We are absolutely going to have a normal newsletter that is not published on LinkedIn so that everybody else who is not using LinkedIn or who doesn't know about me or LinkedIn or Cafe Genius or we gotta start reaching out to everyone, not the LinkedIn silo. Anyway, often via LinkedIn posts, which is a favorite channel among the upper echelons of decision makers in Greater Vegas. That's probably a problem. If you care to, you can search out my Vegas bourgeoisie episode. I don't know what that's about. You might have to listen in and determine it for yourself. Where the headline gets the attention, the engagement, and the memory. Everybody remembers when claims are spelled out in large text. Does anyone look into the details? Well, I know of one person who does. He's recording a podcast episode right now. So we'll start off with the crowdfund capital advisors farce. It was a farce. This came up in 2023 in the earliest days of this audio program. And you can listen to contemporaneous commentary in episode 8. Yes, we're on episode 173 today. Episode 8 was a couple weeks ago when we had guests way back when. In that case, it was Jamie Schwartz at the time of the Office of Economic Development at UNLV. I believe she's doing something else now. The article they had published is since gone, unfortunately. That was the broken link I mentioned. If you care to try to hunt it down, it may be somewhere else, but it's not a good article anyway. I just looked before I'm recording this today, but I did just look. So we'll have to go from memory here, which I will now. The article suggests that Las Vegas was the top startup locality. I think they said city, right? But it could be because Silicon Valley is not one city, right? So sometimes you have to look at the region, the locality. Top startup locality in the country according to their particular metrics, which included some crowdfunding perhaps, and Las Vegas beat out everybody. So that made a lot of news, got a lot of attention. This was pretty high praise at the time. It was post-pandemic, establishing the startup community, put that in quotes, yeah, as you know, in the area with Tech Alley up and running and other events and other gatherings, and this morning effort that the city of Las Vegas was driving. So the author of the article actually joined. It was like an ecosystem breakfast meetup at the city of Las Vegas, hosted every couple of months. I think it was every 2 months. So he attended virtually, video call, and answered some questions. For example, cities like Austin and regions like Silicon Valley, and again, which is made up of several cities, of course, were not included in the rankings. Now, that's not really made completely clear when people talked about it at the time. And this link was still, I believe, on let's just say some websites of important entities here in the Greater Vegas area. So still using this as a reason that the Greater Vegas area is a completely and nearly ideal, but completely valid choice when selecting where to go to launch a startup. And I'm not saying that that's incorrect, but I am saying that this may be not the best example as evidence. From there, the metrics that were included seemed a bit unusual. It was some crowdfunding like I said, so that's not really how startups are. I don't know. And then the author needed to go. Once the questioning got down into the details, he was off to another meeting. Got to go. See ya. This was something of a harbinger, I think, where a great headline describing good news will suffice. The details, these get in the way. It's all right, time to go. So now the links that I've read to you and that are listed in the link section of the episode description are basically in the same order. So here we go. Startup activity. This is a recent item making its way around. I'm seeing other people refer to it here and there. The idea is to rank startup cities. In this case, a task taken on by Startup Blink, which actually assembled a multi-dimensional ranking scheme across the globe, around the globe, across several regions, countries, and cities, with a variety of metrics and by which to rate and rank them. Often these are, so they rank the countries and they also rank cities. It's a pretty dense collection of slides, and there are lots of them. Where would you find these, pray tell? Well, let me get to that part. Often when these are reported on, direct links are not included, and sometimes there is barely a mention of the source at all. Studies say, and similar, studies say that we're number one. You can find the source for this claim if you look, so we'll leave it as a listener exercise, but I'll give you a hint. Search for Startup Blink, startup, no space, BLINK, Startup Blink. And the name given in the article is, I think, front page news right now. So if you're looking contemporaneously, you'll find it. Otherwise, you might have to search for the title. It's something like you'll find it. Why am I not directing you to it? Well, because I'm doing what everybody else is doing. I'm talking about it without actually pointing you to it, so you can do your own research. I do my own research. I'm making a point. I like references. I wish more people did. The important thing with this reporting, Las Vegas is ranked second in startup community activity. That sounds wonderful. That's the headline. Everybody's very excited. And if we drill down into that a bit, the data used for ranking did include events like CES, which was listed specifically. And it is listed. It's mentioned in the article too, so it's not a secret. But one can simply accept the claim, which sounds great for Greater Vegas now and perhaps into the future, or we can look at what this ranking is based on and wonder why CES is counted as startup activity, when unfortunately, and this is true but nobody talks about it, Las Vegas startups are not featured at CES. I know, because I have tried to change that. True story. Very explicitly, and we did an episode about it called The List, L-I-S-T, The List, of this very audio program. It was probably over a year ago. The last time I was at Eureka Park, it was in 2025. That's where all the startups are. I found 0 startups from anywhere in Nevada. I looked in the directory. I looked in the directory for 2026. The last time there was a presence of something from the Greater Vegas area was 2024, when the Office of Economic Development had a 10 by 10 booth, and I don't recall seeing any others. There should be more presence at an event like that. It counts as startup activity. Maybe we should show up. So in fairness, the article does point this out in a single sentence paragraph, that CES is one of the factors that influence ratings for Las Vegas. So again, not a secret. It's not hidden away. I mean, it's in this big giant slide deck report presentation thing, but so I'm not saying they're hiding that, but I am wondering, why does CES make that a startup activity facet in the gem of startup activity that is Greater Vegas? Now, the other issue with the reporting on this is the third paragraph, claiming that Las Vegas ranked number 23 and globally number 67 as a startup city, I guess. Now, note, we are number 2 in startup activity, not necessarily startup city with some other metrics. So we ranked number 23. I couldn't really find a clear place where 23 was mentioned. I could find 67, although that took a little bit more searching around through the deck. So I could locate the 67. The 23 is not jumping out at me. Maybe if you find it, great. What this suggests, though, is that these huge studies across however many axes will have something to offer anyone if they were to look long and hard enough. It is easier and more exciting and serves the narrative better, perhaps, to just go with the second place and improving the community activity, whatever that actually means. And it makes a good headline. And were you going to go check out the Startup Blink presentation, track it down, go through the huge stack? I don't remember how many pages it was. It's a big one. There's lots of tables, and which table am I supposed to be looking for? Is it regional? Is it cities? Is it cities in the US, across the globe? Anyway, good for them for getting all this data. Production by Street. Good for them for pulling all this data together and crafting this presentation. Delightful. But we really got to look through that presentation before we start using it as evidence in the proceedings. Leading US in tech employment and also in employment. So Las Vegas is leading the country, that's our country, US, on tech employment growth with a 4.2% increase in the tech workforce here. So it's a projected increase, not an increase done. It's a projected increase for calendar year 2026. If I got that wrong, it's only because these people throw numbers around quite easily, but it's a projected 4.2%. Which is substantially higher than the 1.9% national average projection. 25 cities are above the 1.9% national average projection, and 4.2% is number one for a projected tech workforce growth for this year. Very exciting. No, really it is. This according to CompTIA, 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 which you are again left to locate yourself. The article mentions but does not explicitly link to the source information. This is a bad habit. This is a bad habit that if I ran the world, I would say, this is unacceptable. You're making claims, you're reporting on them, tell us where it came from. They're not confidential sources. They do not require protection. Not in this case anyway. It is interesting to note how small numbers can benefit from this sort of reporting. By the way, I think I mentioned this at the top, the total employment workforce growth for Las Vegas was also leading the nation at something over 1%. I think it might have been 1.9%. I don't want to confuse those numbers. So I think it was over 1.0, and whereas the average was 0.2, but that's not the total. That's not the point of this section. But it is interesting to note that Las Vegas is bringing in employees and putting them to work. So good for us, good for them. So as stated, there are about 40,000 tech jobs in Vegas. First of all, is this the city of Las Vegas? Is this Greater Vegas? Is it all of Clark County? So what is Greater Vegas versus Clark County? That's a question we will leave unanswered. The definition of terms and the basis for comparison, bases, plural of basis. The bases for comparison are left to the report, not linked directly, so we can guess what a tech job is, and we can be sure to realize that this is optimistic reporting for growth based on factors including job listings. If you are a job seeker yourself, you know that job listings are not necessarily jobs. Thinking back in time through the years. I am reminded of reporting a few years ago that red wine was good for heart health, so drink more of it. Not until one read the study itself that these claims were based on would one realize that this was not action supported at all by the study conclusions, that you should not go drinking red wine for your health. Try to read the studies. And again, not sure what they're basing so 40,000 tech jobs. I'm going to guess it includes all of Greater Vegas at least. So it's important because Vegas and Greater Vegas have two different population numbers. So 40,000 tech jobs as a percentage is different. Are we including Henderson? Are we including North Las Vegas? Are we included unincorporated Clark County areas? We don't know. Do we get to know? Who knows? I will point, and that's why third-party reporting is a little bit tricky, because who knows when they're in Vegas? Few people do. I will point out also that halfway through this article, we switched to UNLV Innovation Day and startups and the usual rundown of resources, then back to job listings, which include a need for AI job skills. Going over the actual CompTIA report is probably a good idea. I had looked at it when I first saw this article, and it was annoying. I know CompTIA has a certain a little bit more of a reputation than Wallet Hub is another place where people pull optimistic studies. But for the reporter, I'm sorry, not for the reporter, but for anyone making decisions based on this reporting, it's probably a good idea to flip through the CompTIA report. I don't know that the reporter did, or if he just looked at a summary. Who knows? Who knows? So that the context for the ratings and rankings, and it's clear that so that it is clear that the news in this projected growth percentage, which is based on a relatively small population of tech workers, is actually useful and meaningful. And we have to figure out how these are defined. In our relatively small population, these percentages can grow quickly, which is why they always look better. We'll get to the population growth right now. So there's an article on population and migration. People are moving here from California. Now, first, the article concerning migration from California to various states. There's another one about the fabulous growth of Las Vegas of Nevada since 1970. So first, the article concerning migration from California to various states, the number one being Nevada, of course. I have heard people say this, so this is purely anecdotal, but I've actually heard people say, and I don't know, I don't know where they get this from, but I think it's just sort of baked into we're the next Silicon Valley. Luckily, that one sort of faded away. There may be an assumption that people are moving to Vegas from Silicon Valley, that these are tech talent ready to blow up the Vegas scene. I've heard such language. Oh, this place is going to blow up. All these people are moving tech startups. Very exciting. Actually, it is more likely people are looking for a lower cost of living to save on housing and taxes. Some may well be in the tech talent pool, but the more important thing to pay attention to is that the rankings are per capita. These are per capita migration numbers. So first of all, we don't know. They're moving to Nevada, probably moving to the Las Vegas area. Great. The demographic of the people relocating is something to dive into a little bit. And then it is, though, important to note per capita. Why is that important? Well, this means that if 1,000 people moved from California to Arizona and another 1,000 moved from California to Nevada, Nevada ranks higher than Arizona because the same number of people have migrated, but Nevada has a smaller population. So when you divide by a smaller number, you get a greater decimal, and then you know how decimals work. So then you multiply by 100 and you call it 100%, out of 100%. So 4, what was it? I can't remember what the percentage is. I'm all these numbers floating around. So Nevada ranks number one for migration because of the fact that its population is smaller than the other destination states, generally speaking. So the fact that we have a smaller population makes some of these percentages grow more quickly when comparing, because we're doing the per capita scaling to do a comparison. But when you're measuring a rate and you do this, you're kind of throwing off the rate because you want to look at how many people per time move into these different places. And the destination population, to me, is an odd scaling factor. So it's something to keep in mind. So the reason Nevada ranks number one in the migration numbers is helped in no small part by the fact that the population of Nevada is 3.3 million-ish and ranks 31. Arizona has more people, as do other states, as do about 30 other states. So similar to the tech jobs numbers, Nevada is a small population, so that small moves appear relatively large when they are scaled to account for population differences. And again, as a percentage of population, the tech workforce, if that same tech force were in Arizona, it would be a smaller percentage, right? So the population percentage in different vertical workforce focal areas will appear different here because of the small population overall. Just something to keep in mind. So also growth, we can add a smaller number of jobs than other places, and they will have a larger percentage impact because of the smaller workforce population in the smaller general population. So got to have that dry erase board out when you're reading through this stuff. Also interesting, and apropos here especially, is the recent telephone games around historical population growth, and that Nevada leads the nation and has for decades. Now, this is true. It sounds exciting, because, and it is true, with 572% surge since 1970. I don't know if that's a surge, if it lasts for 56 years. For 2026, Nevada is ranked 31 in the U.S. based on population. I don't know if I said that, but I looked it up based on census data. So 31. So how can this be? 572% increase in population, and we still only have 31, ranked 31. We should be number one, right? Nevada state is made up of about 3.3 million people, and about 2.4 million of those are in Clark County. About 580,000 of those people are in the city of Las Vegas proper. I haven't looked at the population numbers in maybe a year, but it was 577,000 and some the last time I looked. So maybe Vegas has added 2,500 people. It is important to note that the basis of comparison is what the basis of comparison is if population scaling is applied to reporting, obviously. In our telephone game, we can see that the gaming publication barely mentions the Review Journal as the source. The Review Journal mentions the Visual Capitalist source, and the Visual Capitalist offers a more complete picture, as their name might imply, picture, of population size and percent change based on the U.S. Census data. The telephone game, as I've labeled the 3 entries in the links section, are not uncommon when it comes to reporting on studies done by third parties with data that is often known provenance, if we are willing to look beyond our end of the telephone, where people don't talk about where they get data or they don't link to it directly. So there's always a wiggle room, I suppose. Mostly, we see headlines reporting in local media, posted on LinkedIn, and celebrated as if the headline is the story. Usually it is not. So you can see, if you do look at the census data, or you can look at the Visual Capitalist article, that the population of Nevada in 1970, I'm going from memory here, I believe it was 488,000. So similarly, when you start with a small population, small moves, small changes can be reflected as larger percentages when you're comparing with other places that have larger populations. So when you look at initial conditions, you have to be aware of the differences. This is similar to when you have a data chart. Some people call it a graph, but it's a chart or a plot, if we're being pedantic. But if you adjust the axes, you can make small moves look like big moves, right? So you have to be careful when you're comparing these things, what the initial conditions are, what the total population sizes are, etc. So just be aware of that stuff. But it does make it easier to make headlines more exciting, more interesting, more optimistic perhaps. And it suits the narrative. So your motivated reasoning says, ooh, this one supports the notion that, you know, things are looking up, that we're explosive growth, and we're all about this, and we're doing that, and we're, you know, all kinds of good stuff. So motivated reasoning for the win. What about bad news? I did have that one bad news link. There are others. I have included one post about access to mental health resources, which is unlikely to make it to the usual places on LinkedIn for the usual hype. So nobody's going to post this right after they posted that we're the number 2 worldwide in startup community activities. I am not focusing on mental health in this episode. It is a good topic. One of these days, production by Street. One of these days, I'll remind you about the FACE project, the Focus Attention Calendars for Everyone, which do include because every quarter there's an extra week. So it's a 4-week rotation with a 5th week every 3 months, which is called an R week. It's for resting, recovering, recharging, recuperating. Something that was left off the calendar in the Downtown Project days, which is unfortunate. That'll be in the retrospective if we ever find anyone interested in that. So I'm not focusing on mental health today, only on the fact that when Nevada or Southern Nevada or Greater Vegas is number 1 at being the worst, those don't get the attention. And again, in that article, you see that Nevada, was it Nevada, or now I got to scroll back way up here. It was, Nevada. Nevada ranks dead last, but we're number 1 at being the worst. I myself have pointed out sadness studies. When we were doing the first cohort of the Genius Roundtable, I wrote my Vegas Lax document. I haven't talked about it in a while because it's pretty old now. It was 2022, I think. So it's about to graduate from college. One of the items I listed was that there was just a general unhappiness factor that was pervasive, but I had found some reporting, and then I couldn't find it again That's my bad. And this is one of the reasons that I think a rolling introspection of the greater Vegas area makes so much sense. So in the meantime, if you look for third-party research, you will find that the Vegas area, sometimes the whole state of Nevada, I wish people were more clear about their boundaries, if there's a geographical boundary, what the region is. Anyway, so how they collected their data. But generally speaking, there have been times, and I don't know if any of them are current as of this moment, that the Vegas area did have a lower confidence in quality of life in the near term. People were frustrated by cost of living, by prices increasing, and there's a whole myriad of possibilities there. So in general, when it comes to the very human stuff, as a primary example, so mental health or quality of life, these sorts of things, bad news gets some coverage, but no hype, like none. So I'm not saying that our news outlets don't report on this, because I will tell you when they don't report on things, like they do a lousy job of reporting on innovation and startups and not small businesses across the board, because if you're a restaurant or a bar, you get plenty of coverage. But coverage of small business conditions, startup, and so on, it's left to individuals to contribute to their LinkedIn networks. So mainstream news coverage is very rare. And let's not even talk about social media influencers and all that. They want to talk about tourist aiming stuff, not our ecosystem, to be sure. Nobody likes to seem excited about bad news. Obviously, you're not going to say, hey, look, this is awesome. But as the saying goes, the first step to fixing a problem is admitting that there is one. By extension, our smarter smart city could or should be able to acknowledge the things that are not working for people, for communities, for Greater Vegas on the whole, and then take steps or make information available at large for people to take steps, right? We don't have to always rely on some entity somewhere to do stuff for us. In an entrepreneurial, innovative community, community is always a word thrown around too easily, but people that feel enabled to make positive changes might want to do it. They might actually take that challenge, take that action item. And so enabling that is part of our efforts here at the Cafe Genius, on the Impresarios program and at the Genius Roundtable one of these days. That's why we formed the Genius Roundtable. So yeah, we can do better. This is the final section. Thank you for hanging on. Part of the Smarter Smart City Challenge, which we are doing over at the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, coming all year, January 2027. Part of that challenge certainly includes reporting and awareness. That is news, making news better, more broadly connected to what's actually happening, not just on the Strip, not just everybody focuses an awful lot on the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. They publish their monthly tourism and gaming revenue numbers and all this. Very exciting. But what fraction of the story is that telling? I always say if you want to get news coverage, you got to donate some Cybertrucks. You got to tear down a building. You got to build a new building. You got to buy a sports team. You got to commit some sort of crime or be in politics. What's the difference, really? So you really are not going to get attention by just being innovative, and that's got to change. But where are we? Coming to the end. Our current local media outlets have their favorite topics, and the rest of Greater Vegas may not know where to look beyond the headlines. We certainly live in a culture of sound bites and headline hooks. And this is sensational journalism is not new, but the hook is the headline when you post something on a place like LinkedIn, and people are not going to read the article most of the time. With additional reading left for someone else to do. This is not only in Vegas by any means, but definitely is in Vegas. Statistics are like document redactions, or I was going to switch this, are like redacted documents. Document redactions doesn't make as much sense. Redacted documents. Okay. Statistics are like redacted documents. What they reveal is interesting. What they conceal is vital. Reliance on third-party reports without direct links and deeper dives happens for one reason, the hype. Good news helps to sell the plan, perhaps, but it generally is more appealing. I've been accused of being a negative Nancy, I think. That's my mom, maybe. Maybe. I prefer to think that I'm more of a realist, right? So I think we really do need to have both sides of the the story, the good stuff and the bad stuff, and we can address the bad stuff, and we can rely on the good stuff to give us reason to address the bad stuff, right? So merely posting the good news as though it's the end all and be all and 100% accurate could be problematic. So statistics are like redacted documents, so you can use that if you want. Final point, final section. This is it. Hopefully you're waking up. LinkedIn is part of the problem. The algorithm has changed apparently, but generally speaking, the people encountering posts on LinkedIn are reading headlines, maybe the body of a newsletter, but maybe, thank you for reading mine, I hope you do, but maybe not clicking through to find rating bias and ranking criteria when you're looking at these lists, celebrating that Vegas is number 1 or number 2. Studies say, that's always a good one, posted by people they know gets a like. So if you know the person making the post, you might not even read the post. Oh, that looks interesting. I'm sure they read it. Celebrate, clap, whatever. So they get the like, the headline sticks in the mind, and all is well. Oh, I know that we're number 2. Maybe we're number 1 by now. Stop me if you've heard this. We can do better. And if you're in the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem in some way, that's why we have the Genius Roundtable. That was the entire reason that we had the first cohort, was because we can do better. And anytime you read anything about startup community development, first of all, I'm not really a fan of approaching it as something that you're building. You can't really build an ecosystem, despite what people tell you. Building a community is also sort of not a real thing. The example I always give is if you have a field and you put seeds in the ground and then some sort of a plant. I usually use wheat because it's visually, obvious. If wheat begins to grow and now you have a wheat field, did you grow the wheat? Did you grow the wheat, or did the wheat grow itself? You created the conditions for the wheat to grow, and the wheat did what wheat does. So I prefer to think of it as conditions and outreach and communication and so on, but communities form when they are going to form. And ecosystems are a much more complicated thing that people throw around that word. So I just want to leave that as some thoughts. Some of the motivations are really about being clear, communicating with people, giving people credit, facing the bad news, addressing it as though it is something we can try to fix rather than just ignoring it. So there's all kinds of things. I've been talking about this for years, and I hope eventually we can actually put this stuff out there and we can actually tackle it and take it on. How about Smarter Smart City Challenge? Part of making a smart city better, part of making a smart city smarter is looking at all of the things that impact the people in the smart city. Because when you really think about it, that's what a smart city is about. And then you fix them, make them better, figure out where the problem is coming from, assess root cause and solve that, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about this more, I promise. Will you listen more? Not sure. But I do thank you for listening if you did. Don't forget, cafegenius.org will begin to look nicer and will be a richer information resource for several reasons, which we will talk about in future episodes. Thank you for listening as always this time around. And yes, I hope your Juneteenth is going quite well whenever you listen to this. Take care. Bye-bye.